Thank you, Phil, and thank you, Michael, for having me here today. Wow, what an energetic opening. I have not been to a conference that started out with this much energy in the morning, well, maybe ever. I don't know what you guys were doing at 7:30. I don't know what they put in your coffee, but that's pretty terrific. And I'm so pleased to be here again at APTA. You know, you're going to hear repeatedly, if you haven't already, it's important for you to be here. How many of you have heard that it's important to be here? This is a test, by the way, because you just heard it. If you don't raise your hands, I'm afraid you're asleep. All right, how many of you believe that? Okay, well, thank God. I don't have to convince you of that, because there's new staff on the Hill. You know, some of the people you're going to go talk to, you've talked to for years, and they're going to say, Marnie, God, it was great to see you again, but I already know your story. But for some of you, you're walking into offices when you go up to the Hill with completely new staff. It's a 23-year-old who's looking at you, who's like, transit. What's transit? I thought they only had that here in Washington, D.C. You've got to tell them your story and why transit's important in your community. For some of you, how many of you have a newly elected, a freshman member of the House or Senate you're going to go see today? Okay, these people do not know anything about what you do. I'm going to put money on that. So you have a chance to go in, and it's not just about, you know, talking about a little bit what's going on in your town and why this is important. You can't kind of sit there like this. You've got to explain to them how you fit in, how transit fits into your economy, how it fits into your transportation system, how it creates jobs, how it sustains employment, but most importantly, how important the federal government is to that, how important federal investment is to that, because there is a lot of noise on Capitol Hill today. You know, we transportation people, we tend to think that we're unique and we're special. We're like, we're transportation, we got a trust fund, this is all good. Except that for the last 10 years or so, well, it hasn't been quite all that good. And now, when you go to Capitol Hill, you know, it took the Senate 6 weeks to pass a Department of Homeland Security bill, Senate and the House. Just an appropriations bill, by the way. Nothing complicated, just an appropriations bill for the Department of Homeland Security. The Senate spent 3 weeks debating the Keystone Pipeline. We've kind of done that one before. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but yeah, we've been there. We've done the Keystone thing before. The president vetoed it. We'll probably have a veto override, but the Senate took 3 weeks to do that. They've got a debt ceiling debate coming up. They need to pass a budget between now and, oh, I don't know, May 31st. In June, the Ex-Im Bank, the Export-Import Bank, well, that's going to expire again. We got a Medicare problem coming up in a few weeks. There's a lot of noise on Capitol Hill. So you being here helps cut through that noise, because you are a person from their district, from their state, representing employees. You're buying things out of a supply chain. You can say, yep, I'm buying buses or I'm buying rail cars. You're putting a face on it. You might have 10 minutes standing in a hallway with a 23-year-old who doesn't know anything about transportation. You might have a half an hour with a member of Congress, but this is your chance. Here's why it's really important. Transit is under attack in Washington. I cannot open a newspaper during a week when I don't see an article, when I don't see an op-ed that's been placed by the Heritage Foundation. I know it's the Heritage Foundation because I've seen their stuff, that says transit is a waste of money out of the Highway Trust Fund. And that if we just fixed that little problem, we took that waste out, we just solve all of the transportation funding problems, because roads are all that really matter and they're all that really federal. You're here today. Can I use a bad word? You're here today to call bullshit on that, people. You're here today to say, I don't care if Carly Fiorina signed an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, or if one got placed that's almost identical in the Los Angeles Times that says transit is a waste of money. You're looking those members of Congress today in the eye, you're looking those staff, and you say, you tell me this is a waste of money. You talk about the people who are riding your buses or who are riding your trains, and you challenge them Because it's real easy for them to say in meetings on Capitol Hill, you know, they get together, they talk to each other. By the way, these are people the U.S. Chamber helped put in office. So when I get fired, Michael, my resume is coming to you. Mort, I am definitely not sending you my resume. Thank God I'm not qualified to work at Metro whatsoever. And they sit around, they're like, yeah, you know what, this is really easy. We need another $10, $15 billion. We're just going to dump out transit. That's easy for them to say to each other, but it's going to be real hard when you're in their offices. You're going to hear them say, well, the market ought to decide. Transit's really local. Private sector will build it, or the local folks should pay for it. I was in South Carolina doing a presentation to the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce Infrastructure Day. Anybody here from South Carolina? All right, up in the back, thank you very much. So you had a congressman there who actually, for the most part, said a lot of the right things, including we ought to raise the gas tax. I've later heard he got some phone calls about that, but you know, I compliment Tom Rice for saying, you know, what we probably ought to do is raise the gas tax. But then Rice put up a chart and he showed and he said, well, you know, South Carolina, we don't get any real transit money back, and if we just got rid of transit, then we could fix the highway problem. To which I replied, thanks to Brian Tynan's quick email and research to me as I'm typing on my phone, South Carolina, 47% of your resources in South Carolina for transit come from the federal government. So don't tell me it doesn't matter. Don't tell me it's a small amount. That's a pretty big deal, and that's in South Carolina. Then he said, well, you know, we give all of this money to Washington, and it only goes to like 2 transit systems in Los Angeles and New York. Really? So you get to go up to Capitol Hill today and explain to them, look, it's not all local. This is about the economy. You get to tell them, look, we've been investing in transit for years. This isn't all about the market should decide. And again, I'll mention I do work for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I get to say all of the fun stuff. And this isn't waste. This is about investment, and it's about a complete system. So you're important today on Capitol Hill because you are going to go up there and you're going to take on those people who are saying transit doesn't need to be a part of this. You're going to take them on directly and do not let them off the hook. Do not let them tell you, I'm not on the committee of jurisdiction, I don't have anything I can do about it. That's crap. They can call their leadership, they can show up on their Monday or Tuesday leadership meetings and they can say, these transportation people are wearing me out. We got to make sure we do a bill. Because you know how things get prioritized in the United States House and the United States Senate? When members come back from recess, and the House is on recess this week, when members come back, they tell their leadership who's been beating them up, and that helps determine the priority list. You know how resources, floor time gets managed in the United States Senate? It's when they realize if we don't get something on the floor and get it done, our members are going to get beat up at home. So it's time not to let them off the hook. Now, I'm going to give you one other thing to think about, and that's you're all in this together. We're all in this together. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, the Americans for Transportation Mobility Coalition, which APTA has supported for years, which ARTBA helped to start. We're all in this together, but for you in transit, you are all in this together. If you go to the Hill and it becomes bus versus light rail, or people drag you into conversations about, I don't know why you're doing a streetcar, you ought to do this instead, or if it becomes big transit systems versus small transit systems, that's just the kind of division that Congress needs. It's just the excuse they need to say, well, there's no unity there, we can get rid of those guys. You have to go with a unified voice today. You have to be representing transit. You have to be representing transportation, passing a long-term transportation bill. Don't let them drag you into a conversation about what part of transit's better than the other. Should we be using buses? Should we be using light rail? I hate that DC streetcar. I can't believe that. Forget that. That's not what this conversation's about. This conversation is about we need a long-term, fully funded transportation bill that supports growth, that supports investment, that supports jobs. Just like Michael said it, we need it now. We're going to be standing up with you for transportation on April 9th. What perfect timing, Phil. You know, April 9th is the very end of the Easter recess, or as they call it, district work period. So for the 10 days before that, because that recess starts on March 30th, you can be taking people out and showing them projects, showing where federal investment happens. You can show how you're partnering with DOTs. You can show how transit is impacting your business community. And then on April 9th, just in case any of you hadn't really thought about what you're going to talk about, on April 9th, what a great story you have for the media in your area. What a great op-ed you have to place, or a blog post, or shoot, a whole set of tweets. Because you can talk about what you've been doing for the last 10 days, showing your members of Congress and your delegations, showing your communities what transportation is about, why transit matters, why we need a fully funded transportation bill. If any of you can't pick up the phone and call your state or local chamber of commerce, or you need help with that, let me know. Michael's got my cell phone number. Shoot, I'll give you my cell phone number if you really want it right now, but it might just be easier if Michael gave it to you later. We'll make that happen. Phil, it's just a tremendous opportunity for all of us to stand up together for transportation, and I'm proud to stand here with you today. So thank you all very much.